Hello and welcome to Archvelder's Hacks with Archvelder and his amazing hacks. In this video, I'll be showing you some simple yet powerful gold farms that exploit secret glitched mechanics to get you started when Wrath of the Lich King Classic starts on September 26. I'm using a mage for this video, but much of the content can be used by all classes. The first farm we'll cover is this one in Taraka Forest at Firewing Point. Now this has a gargantuan number of mobs and a very fast respawn rate. That alone makes this farm viable, but the mobs also drop Firewing signets that increase reputation with the Scryer faction and make up a disproportionate amount of the returns from this farm. You'll need to check the price of the signets before doing this farm. This is a good farm for all classes, however it is a great farm for mages, as we'll see. The Firewing Warlocks have a special buff called Sun Shield that you can spell steal. They cast it when their health goes below 30%. Now the tooltip is as clear as an Activision Blizzard quarterly earnings statement, so I'll just briefly explain what this does. It increases your in-combat mana regeneration. You can really take advantage of this by maxing out Spirit, not your in-combat regeneration. Use things like Spirit buffs from scrolls and food. If you do this, you'll find you basically never run out of mana despite the very high mana output you'll be using with these constantly respawning mobs. Now this area in the uninstanced Black Temple in Shadowmoon Valley is reasonably well known, where you kill demon hunters on the southernmost side of the temple and Dragonmaw orcs on the northernmost side. You will find classes which can do mass pulls in the main demon hunter area, making a lot of gold. This is actually pretty easy to do for a geared paladin and some other classes. That said, there's a more subtle opportunity here for all classes and gear levels. You see, when mobs spar like this, they take each other's health down to around 50% or even lower, making them temporarily weaker than any other mob at the same level with equivalent loot drops. The sweet spot for attacking these mobs only lasts a few seconds, but if you can consistently pull it off, you have significantly reduced the resources and time it takes to kill them, making mob grinding dramatically more efficient. The prize drop of these mobs is the Arcane Tome, so check the price of this on your auction house before proceeding. This area in Legion Hold is arguably the best instant respawn farm in the game, with its constantly respawning warlocks. The reduced price of the Marks of Sagras and Fell Armaments these mobs drop make this slightly less attractive than it was in OG TBC, but the sheer speed of the respawn still makes this very attractive in terms of raw drops. Now this farm is appropriate if you are struggling with competition from other players on your realm. This one requires you not to have done the Harbingers of Shadowmoon quest at Wildhammer Stronghold. This quest gives you access to a huge number of phased ghost mobs with regular drops. This is arguably even better than Legion Hold in some ways, at least for single target specialists. Not because it has the best drops, it's mostly silver, netherweave trash and the occasional green. It is because the mobs don't aggro each other, they are easy to kill and use nothing but weak melee attacks, and you are in a friendly area with repairs, food, drink, mail and everything else readily accessible. So even if the returns from farming this area are behind those of the best farms, you have to take into account the dramatically reduced travel time and convenience. At this point in the video, I was going to show you a method to trivialize farming Strut Home. If you go into the main entrance and jump on this flagstone to the left, it evade resetted all the melee mobs, but kept casters in combat, allowing leveling or undergeared players to pick them off easily and earn decent amounts of gold. Or at least that was what happened till last week, when Blizzard suddenly decided to change everything so that packs of mobs don't reset. Now look what happens. Now you think, what if you jump down and use AoE on the pack? They teleport down with you. Blizzard really don't want you doing this stuff. Now, there are potentially ways for tanking classes and groups to exploit these new mechanics, but for now I'll leave that to your imagination. This basin in the Isle of Keldanas, near the quest hubs, is actually an instant respawn area, so despite the intense amount of competition for mobs, you can usually find something to kill pretty much consistently. If you go behind the basin, you'll find that on high population realms with lots of people killing mobs in the surrounding area, the demons respawn constantly, and you usually have these to yourself if you go up here. Worth adding that mages farming the basin area can just nip under this bridge and spell steal a powerful damage buff from the nearby Dawnblade summoners. That gives you a whopping 255 spell damage, greatly increasing your kill speed. As with Legion Hold, because you are killing Burning Legion mobs, the special drops are Fell Armaments and Marks of Sargeras. As always, check the price of these before farming. Now we are off to Netherstorm and we'll be farming the area around Manaforge Banar. This is a pretty good area for farming generally due to mob density, but mages, especially fire mages, have one of the best grinding opportunities in the game here. This is down to this mob, the Sun Fury Astromancer, who has a buff you can spell steal called Fiery Intellect. This increases intellect by 58 and fire spell damage by 111. Now, if that wasn't enough, you can actually stack it to do some insane DPS if you can spell steal the buffs fast enough. You'll also see other mobs periodically channeling the blood crystals, which gives them another spell stealable buff for an extra 120 spell damage. This one only lasts 30 seconds though. Unlike Fiery Intellect, which lasts for the 2-minute maximum duration of spell steal. And finally, you can get another 5% damage buff from the Blood Gem Shards, which drop from the mobs in the area. Just use it near one of the red crystals. The loot drops you're looking for here are the Sun Fury Signets and the Arcane Tubes. Now, some YouTubers have suggested doing all the world quests in the game, and while that does yield impressive amounts of gold collectively, individually most of the world quests aren't really worth doing, as generally speaking the returns are a little better or actively worse than a decent gold farm. The exception are some of the dailies on the Isle of Keldanas, which are very fast and have no prerequisites other than being maximum level. The quests I have listed here can be completed fairly easily in 20 minutes or so. These quests all take place in areas where there are above average gold farms in their own right. The last farm I'll be covering, unlike the other farms I mentioned here, requires flying, as it takes place in Sketis, which is only reachable via flying. This farm works because there are barriers to entry. You need flying to even get to Sketis, and to farm the mobs in question, you'll have to turn in 6 Shadow Dust to Severin here, and in exchange, he'll give you an Elixir of Shadows potion. This will allow you to see the time-lost mobs of Sketis, which are otherwise phased and invisible. Now, these mobs drop time-lost scrolls. This is a very rare example of something in TBC Classic, with a high drop chance, which can sell for multiple gold pieces. But it is really difficult to take advantage of the situation fully because of the 20-minute limit on the potion before you need to farm more Shadow Dust from the corporeal Sketis mobs nearby, or buy it off the auction house. Also, due to the scattered nature of the mobs and the way they are mixed up with the regular Sketis mobs, it isn't terribly efficient to farm them. Here's a workaround for this. Note that if you log out, the Elixir of Shadows potion maintains the same duration no matter how long you log out for. So you can farm a cluster of mobs and then log out and maintain your potion's duration, and then back in a few minutes later with the time lost mobs respawned, allowing you to farm with ultra efficiency on a minute for minute basis. Now, whether this is useful to you depends on whether you can do something else productive with the lost time, perhaps on an alt. You need to be able to fill in a few minutes smelting or herbing or whatever. Now, you'll notice I haven't given gold per hour numbers for these farms, and there's a good reason for that. Most gold farms in TBC Classic yield between 100 to 150 gold per hour, comprised of raw gold, netherweave cloth, greens, and the occasional high value item. The main thing that differentiates them is how fast you can kill the mobs, and special drops like the Time Lost Scrolls, Arcane Tomes, Marks of Sugras, and other special items that are mob specific. The value of these currently on the auction house is all over the place. While I was running these farms, it wasn't uncommon for the items to drop almost to zero in value, only to subsequently quadruple in price. So it is a good idea to check the auction house constantly. You'll be missing a huge chunk of gold if you don't check the value of the items before you start farming, and or dump them on the auction house regardless of any price changes.